It has to do with the Goldgate, as it is being called, a jet that is still detained at the Kenneth Kaunda International Airport by the Drug Enforcement Commission. This is because the aircraft was carrying contraband, and this is fake gold, as reported by the Drug Enforcement Commission, firearms, among other things that were quite suspicious. But what is also interesting about this story is the number of foreign nationals that have been detained in relation to this, and in fact charged and arrested, some of them expected to appear in court. Well, most recently we saw a report by their lawyer that they were all ill. And well, we also got news just yesterday of the arrest of journalists a journalist that covered this story from Egypt. Why is Egypt an important part of this conversation? Well, that's simply because some of these arrested individuals are Egyptian nationals, and the recent Goldgate scandal has brought some shocking revelations to light. Recently, we heard the report of the implication of some Egyptian nationals believed to be army officials. And so we're going to talk about this in detail as we're joined by Egyptian journalist who is going to talk to us via video conferencing to get more detail into this and also just analyze the freedom of the press in that country, especially now that we're talking about the detention of this specific journalist. So Egyptian journalist Hossam el-Hamalawy is joining us from Berlin in Germany to talk to us about this. Thank you so much, Hossam, for talking to us on this. But based on what you've heard and the communication that you've had with journalists on ground in Egypt about this story, how big is it back home, and how much are people talking about it?
Just in case your viewers do not know, since the 2013 military coup in Egypt, the freedom of press is non-existent in the country at this point. Most of the major outlets, whether they are websites, TV stations, radio channels, they are all officially owned by the Egyptian intelligence service, or the Mukhabarat, as we call it in Arabic. So whatever news are covered or not covered, they come via directives from the security services. And up until this moment, there isn't a single word written about this in any Egyptian newspaper, in any Egyptian TV. And we actually got the initial news from the Zambian media. Now, what happened is that the government, they basically unleashed on us some of the internet trolls and some of the pro-regime influencers in order to try to spread some fabrications about the story, like this plane is not Egyptian, and then they changed the story into that this plane never took off from Egypt, and then they changed the story into this plane belongs to the Muslim Brotherhood and not anyone else. However, independent media fact checkers, who are very few at this point in Egypt, in addition to social media users and some activists in exiles, have come forward to try to get more information, building on what the Zambian media already revealed for us. And unfortunately, one of the journalists who were covering this story on Facebook, since again, we do not have independent media at this point, was arrested by the Egyptian security services early Saturday morning. They raided his house, they assaulted him, they assaulted his wife, they threatened to harm their 2-year-old son, and forced him to log into Facebook in order to delete some posts posts that had information about the some of the detainees in Lusaka, and he disappeared for 2 days. But thanks to the pressure on the Egyptian regime, in addition to the public outcry that happened internationally, he was released last night. So this is the latest that I have on this issue.
Well, do you think that based on the stories, I mean, I know that some of these stories were deleted and like you put it, there's, you know, a lot of heavy-handedness towards the media. But do you think that the fact that this has come to light and people were talking about even his arrest, that there's a likelihood that people might have more interest in this scandal?
Definitely. Social media is still not under the full control of the regime, so there is always a room for us to try to find information or to discuss news that the intelligence service has deliberately tried to basically kill that story. So from the revelations that social media users and independent fact checkers have managed to find out is the identity and the jobs of some of the Egyptian detainees in that case. And it has been shocking for us. Now, one of them, whose name is Muhammad Abdul Haq Muhammad Gouda, it turned out that he's the former assistant military attaché in the Egyptian embassy in Washington, D.C. Previously. It's still unclear if he's still in the service or is he retired. Another person whose name is Yasser Shishtawi, it turned out that he is an officer in Unit 777, which is an elite counter-terror military unit in Egypt. And people have circulated photos of him in military uniform. Again, it's unclear if he's still in service or is he retired. Another person whose name is Michael Adel Michel Botros, it turned out that he is a military contractor and he owns a security firm that is registered in Britain, and it provides consultancies for militaries around the world. And the last person whose identity has been revealed is Walid Rifat Fahmi Botros, who turned out to be a former police officer. Now, this caliber of people being together on the same plane, this really raises so many questions. What are they doing? And at this point, there is no official statements from the Egyptian government, and people are left to speculate that it might be some intelligence-related operation, or maybe, but who knows? But it's definitely something fishy.
Finally, as we let you go, my question is, and I think that you partly answered it just now, but do you think that government is, I don't know, threatened by the revelation of these people? And based on the pressure that might be coming from the citizens, do you think that they'll be able to issue a statement on this?
They will have to issue a statement at some point. And not just because that there is so much pressure on them from the social media users and the citizens who are asking about this, but this is snowballing into an international scandal. So I expect that once the detained suspects appear in court and the story starts getting more international coverage, that they will be forced to issue some explanation. Now, based on our history with this Egyptian regime, they are hardly transparent. They lie and fabricate all the time, but they will have to present their own official side of the story at some point soon.
Thank you so much for talking to us, Hossam, there, giving us an update on the huge, much talked about scandal here in Zambia involving some Zambian nationals, Egyptian nationals, and Spaniards. And this has been one of the biggest scandals and quite shocking, really.